If you're like me and you like really cool old stuff, then you're going to love this because I love this. This was sent in to me by a Reddit user who wishes to remain nameless. What this is a 2x magnifier. It's not just a 2x magnifier, though. This is made by a company called Hensoldt, which makes some of the most expensive optics on the planet when it comes to, well, I guess anything sporting like this. This, however, is not one such object. Oh no. This is actually a 2x magnifier that was used for rocket-propelled grenades. Yes, this is a 2x magnifier and ranging system for an RPG. And that is fucking awesome. As far as what these things cost, I couldn't really find this exact one to give you a comparison for it, but it's around 150, 200-ish dollars. This is a 2X, as you can see it, completely non-adjustable. Can't even tell you how old this is, but I'm going to guess it's around the 70s. Maybe even a little bit earlier than that. But it's just a 2X, non-adjustable RPG magnifier. And does this even work, number one? And number two, will this work with a red dot or a holographic sight in front of it? Well, dear viewers, we are here to find that out together. Because who'd have thunk that this would actually work? I'm getting so excited, I'm about to knock my tripod over. What model number is this? This is the PZF44. If you're looking for more information about this, as well as pictures, I will be linking them in the description below. So this way, if you are interested in finding one of these for yourself, hopefully you can get a little more information to figure out where to even get one of these things from. With that being said, this does have a fairly cheap UTG throw mount. As you can see, it is QD ready, which is nice. But to disengage or engage this does have a lock. You have to push forward like that, and then rotate out of the way. So you can run this like you would any other magnifier behind a red dot and or holographic sight, as long as this thing actually works with it. My main thing about this is going to be, what's the eye relief going to be? Because you see this eye cup? This usually tells me that you have to put your eye right up against it. And if you have a very hard recoiling round rifle, let's say a 308, whether it be a bolt gun or an AR, an AR-10, that might hurt if it catches you just right. Anyway, let's get this thing on the scale to at least see what kind of weight we're playing with here. About 16 ounces is not that heavy. The only thing I have to really compare this to right now is my Primary Arms Gen 4 LER in 3X with a Vortex Cant mount, which is a non-tilt-away mount, but they're about the same weight. So, relatively speaking, the weight on this thing is fairly comparable to some modern day stuff, albeit very inexpensive modern day stuff, but modern day stuff. Anyway, that's about it. There's not really much else to talk about. Oh, by the way, this is not a 30mm tube. I stand corrected. You can see this is a 30mm ring, and we have a spacer inside, which looks like it will slide off of this. This is a little bit smaller. I just mic'd this up. It's a little bit over an inch. So what that is in metric is probably like 25 and change, somewhere around there. But anyway, this is all you got. As far as the mount itself goes, I might as well review that in the same video. So if you're looking up this mount and or this magnifier, welcome to the same video. I don't mind this. I've been playing around with this for quite some time, so I already know all the answers to all the questions that I just laid out before you. But as far as how well this thing mounts, it's just like any other slightly adjustable throw lever. Get it to where you need it, and you can adjust the amount of tension with this little Allen key right here. And as you can see, it works just fine. The one thing I do not like about it, again, you have to push and unlock. So as opposed to almost, I wouldn't say all, tilt-away mounts, but some of them have either a little button to release it or no button whatsoever. You just throw it, and there's a nice heavy cam in there that locks. But with this, you have to push and then throw. And as you can see, it's a little challenging even for me right now on a tabletop in a very rigid mount. So if you're doing this on a gun, you have to probably grab it like this, push, and then you have to worry about your hand getting in contact with your red dot, and then pulling it off to the side. Don't really particularly care for it. However, what can you really expect for a $25 mount? I'm just glad this thing locks up fairly tight and, holds itself together. Problem is there's no adjustable height on this, so you're going to deal with how it is from the factory, and that's going to be it. Anyway, that's going to conclude. That's going to conclude the basic review of the mount and the unboxing-ish of this magnifier. Let's get this thing mounted up and see what it looks like. Originally, I was going to do my normal 2-video review setup, an unboxing or first look, and then my full review. And then I realized there's no real unboxing for this thing, and there isn't really a whole lot you can do with a magnifier before everything just starts to become extremely redundant. You look through it, is it good? Yes or no? Okay, that's about it. And then you go over its quirks and features and what sort of feature set it has. But with this, there's almost nothing. We push forward on the UTG mount and look through this freaking awesome Hensoldt magnifier. And right off the bat, you can clearly see we have a fairly small view through it. The rest of it's black because of that rubber eye cup that we already looked at. But what we are greeted with is just a beautiful, beautiful image. From edge to edge, it is razor sharp, but not just an overall look through it, but literally any distance through this thing is in focus all the time. I've never experienced anything like that with a magnifier. Throwing the Holosun 512 in front of it, you can clearly see through it with no issues whatsoever. There are a little bit of dark spots on top and bottom, only because I cropped the image for this, but we'll be taking a look at a non-cropped image of that soon. But the reticle is very sharp, the view through the optic is very sharp, as well as just everything else in general. Now you might notice that the reticle on the 512 is not perfectly dead center on the magnifier. That's one of the key things about this magnifier in particular that might not meet your criteria, because guess what? You can't adjust it whatsoever. It's going to be what it's going to be. However, you can clearly see even here with this Vortex Strike Fire 2, it's still mostly dead center, which is, saying a lot considering we're on a $25 UTG mount. I'm sure if this was in a better mount that was probably a little bit held to a little bit tighter tolerances when it was manufactured, it might be better, but it's still not going to be guaranteed going to line up dead center on each optic each and every time. With that being said, though, the view through the Strike Fire 2 is nothing short of fantastic. It doesn't even look like there's another optic in front of it. I don't know how the hell this Hensoldt manages to do it, but it makes it look like there's no other glass there. It's excellent. As opposed to this, the SIG Romeo 4T, which the unboxing on this thing will be coming out very shortly. You could tell right away there's a massive amount of tint, and that reticle doesn't look anywhere near as good as the one on the Holosun or the Strike Fire. Now, there is a shadow towards the bottom, but that's only because of the height discrepancy between the two. But more on that very soon. To talk more about this mount, I really don't particularly care how you have to push forward to disengage. Like I said, sometimes it goes okay, but like here, it was locked up, and you really had to put a lot of pressure on it to push forward. And I really, really didn't like it. It's not the best. But you know what? If you're looking for something really inexpensive that's a tilt-away mount for a magnifier, there are some other options, but this is definitely an option. Now, as far as the drop reticle that's inside this magnifier, apparently you can open this up and remove that. I, however, am nowhere near skilled enough to even contemplate that endeavor. Now, one thing about this is there's no adjustment even for the focus, but yet look at how sharp everything, and I mean everything, is on this thing. That concrete wall is within 3 feet, maybe even closer. The floor is within about 4 feet, and everything from that close up to infinity is in focus. How the hell did Hensoldt do that? I don't know. Maybe it's partly because it's only a 2x magnifier and not a 3, a 4, a 5, a 6. It's not stressing out the glass whatsoever. But regardless of that, this is still very, very old in retrospect. This thing's probably from like the 70s, 80s, I would have to guess. And to have it still be this good is nothing short of amazing. We still have a nice clear view through the Strike Fire before I quickly swap it over for the Holosun 512. I had mounted that a little bit farther forward from where it was originally, and you can clearly see there's a lot more scope shadow. On the Holosun 512, you can clearly see the top and bottom bars when we're looking through it. So take that for what it's worth. Again, could we get it any sort of better? Not really, but that's mostly because this is only, again, a 2x magnifier. As far as the eye relief goes,
it's actually not terrible. Again, because it's a 2x magnifier. It's not anything higher where the exit pupil is going to be really small and shifted to one side. That rubber cup, though, however, does have to get right up to the eye to be able to look through this thing, and it's a little unnerving thinking about putting this on something that was very high recoiling and having it literally touch your eye. Why are we down here in the garage at the track and test area? Just to admire how good this thing looks even when you're indoors in low light and not ideal conditions. I do have this mounted a little bit farther forward still, but regardless, we still have a very beautiful view through it. And you know what? You could almost use those drops to get a gauge at the distance you are to full-size IPSC targets. So if you do plan on using this for any sort of shooting environment like that, you might be able to use it.
Fire!
For something pretty good. And that was my best impersonation of a German soldier screaming fire from, an RPG. I know, I'm a corny guy, what can I say? All right, so what are my final thoughts on this thing? Well, it's made really, really well. It feels great in hand, despite, again, its age and its intended use. I assumed that, I guess, RPG optics wouldn't be anything really, special, but it also makes sense that they wouldn't cheap out on RPG optics because you have an RPG. So lining this up with a tank or another substantial object and shooting a rocket at it might be important to be able to see what you're shooting at, and also be able to easily adjust for drop at distance with this sort of BDC reticle that it has built in. So factoring all that together, it makes sense that they wouldn't cheap out on an optic, which is why this thing is as so beautiful as it is. Is this a viable option today, though, to put behind one of your red dots and to take it out a little bit further? Well, I think it is, especially if you're looking for something that's completely unique and very cool. However, I wouldn't recommend putting this on a very heavy recoiling rifle, not because you'd want it to fall apart, but because that eye cup literally has to be touching your eye to be able to look through it properly. Now, it's not a real issue with the magnifier, it's just the way it was designed. So this way, when you're looking through this thing, you can really focus on your target and not miss. Now, with all that again being said, this does work well as a red dot magnifier, and you can very easily use it. However, again, like I've stated in this entire video, it does have its limitations, and its limitations are simply there's no adjustability to it whatsoever. Now, some of you might see that as a pro, because, if there's no adjustability, there's less to go wrong, less for it to break. All you have are a couple pieces of glass in a tube that's solid. What could really go wrong? And in that regard, in that mindset, you're absolutely right. This thing is probably extremely robust. But let's say something's not 100% right, or your zero's really far off to the side. You're not going to be intuitively thinking, let me look straight through this thing and have it be on target. The reticle could be slightly off. It just so happens to work here with the Holosun 512 that it's very close to center as well as the Strike Fire 2. But it might not be the case all the time. So that's something you have to think about. I should have showed this off earlier, but I didn't. But when you're behind it, you do have a little bit of leeway with the exit pupil of looking through this thing. So it's not like you have to have a 100% perfect cheek weld all the time. It's still fairly forgiving, despite how small the front glass is on this thing. As far as other options with going with a magnifier for yourself, the sky is literally the limit. You can spend as little as $120-ish on something that's halfway okay to $600 plus. Maybe you want 3x, maybe you want 6x, maybe you want 5x. Here you got the 2x. You can get whatever you want. This is basically just showing off what an old school technology can do in a modern sort of role, and just even being able to answer the question, will it even work? And with that, the answer is yes. However, yes, that next is an asterisk, and next that asterisk says not without its faults. So keep that in mind if you're curious on getting one of these. But as far as a competent, good-looking 2x magnifier, this thing does extremely well. Anyway, a huge thank you to the nameless Redditor for sending this in. I honestly really enjoyed having this. I used it many times, and looking on a rifle, it just looked absolutely fantastic and awesome all the time. And it's something that I would probably consider if the price was right. It'd have to be under $200 with a good mount just to have something that's really cool and works as well as this. But ultimately, the clarity on this thing is second to none. Anyway, that's all for right now. Thank you all very much for watching. And as always, see you again next time. And a huge thank you to my Patreon providers and my Subscribe Stars subscribers. Without you, this truly wouldn't be possible. If you'd like to support my channel but don't want to join either of those, I completely understand. But you can still help by using my affiliate links in the description below, and or like, share, and subscribe as always. Again, thank you very much.